Good evening and welcome to The Debate. We're joined in the studio by our Wednesday night regular Craig Bellamy and Kieran Dyer on what has been a dramatic day for the FA and English football. FA Chief Executive Martin Glenn has apologised to Eni Aluko and Drew Spence as an independent inquiry finds that Mark Sampson did make racist remarks. We'll be discussing if football has the right structure and culture to deal with serious grievances. We'll also look back at the Champions League as Chelsea fight back for a draw, United win at Benfica and Celtic are beaten in Munich. And what next for Newcastle United? Mike Ashley has put them up for sale. But who will buy them and where can they take the club? We'll be taking your questions too, as always. You can tweet us at Sky Sports PL. This is The Debate. So, lots to get through tonight, but only one place to start in many ways in terms of tonight's football action. An absolute rip-snorter of a game involving Chelsea. What did you make of it, Kieran?
Roma were the better team. Chelsea before the game would have been thinking 3 points. But they're very fortunate to get 1 point. We were talking about it earlier, with Madrid drawing earlier in the evening. It was a big chance for Chelsea. Very lucky to get a point. Roma were the better team. Great football.
You say lucky to get a point, though. Was it on that basis, was it a good performance from Chelsea? Were Roma simply a very good side tonight?
Well, Roma were very good. But you look at the start of the game, of course, Atletico Madrid drawing, Chelsea playing at home, you would have looked at it as a great opportunity for us to get 3 points, to stamp our authority on a group. But credit to Roma, they were good. They were really good. And Chelsea will be disappointed because they were 2-0 up. Then they got pegged back. Then they were losing the game 3-2. So, you know, coming away from that, I'd look at it and say, well, yeah, we're disappointed we didn't get the win. But at the same time, Roma were better on the day. So give them credit. We'll take a point and then try and get the reverse, you know, try and get the win over in Rome.
Is it most unlike an Antonio Conte team to let slip a 2-goal lead?
It is, but the team, you know, obviously they won the league last year. They had no Champions League, they had no Europe, so they could just concentrate on the league, which helps. It's a huge benefit, especially with the class of players Chelsea have. But the disappointing factor for me this year, all right, there's been a lot of complaints about the squad not being big enough. 1 or 2 players obviously leaving. Now Champions League as well as competing in the league is always difficult, but they do have the players who are good enough to be able to compete on both fronts. But I'm concerned about the injuries they're getting. You know, they've had a lot of hamstring injuries, and I know you could say, well, yeah, the games, and a lot of these players play international football, of course they do, but I don't know, maybe he's training as well at times. I know he does double sessions, I know he likes to do that quite a lot. To put those sessions, the work he wants to do in training and double sessions as well as playing 2 games a week, it's very, very difficult. You're going to pick up injuries during that period, and if he has got a squad which he's not happy with the size, it's going to take it's going to be difficult
just
to
not right with him as well today. He's one of the most animated managers when Chelsea score a goal, and today they score a goal. It was like he didn't bat an eyelid.
But he's been like it all season. You could tell in the summer he was like, and even the contract situation, I found that strange. All right, he signed a new contract, yeah, but there was no more years on top of it. Usually when you see a manager sign, all right, he's got 3 years, then he's just signed a new contract, he's going to be there for 5 years. All right, we all know it doesn't mean too much. It doesn't mean he's going to be there for 5 years. But to me, it just sounded strange. Obviously, they've just given more money. That was clear. But I don't know. It just hasn't seemed happy from the start of the season. And
it all started from the tracksuit, when he had the tracksuit on the touchline. Even that, you're just like, what the hell's going on?
Well, he just made it looked clear. He made the statement that day. Yeah. He was like, I'm a coach then. OK, if that's how you see me, I'm a coach. That's why I'm wearing a tracksuit.
But he has sought to clarify this, although by the sound of it, not very convincingly, when he said, look, you know, my family are moving here. I've signed my Chelsea contract. I tend to see it out. But you're not convinced, are you?
No. I mean, as we've touched on, he's been moaning about the size of the squad. And if you look at Chelsea's probably starting 11, they're a match for anyone in the Premier League. They showed that last season. We've run away with the league. Is the squad as strong as Man City's, Man United's? I don't think so. If Morata gets injured, he obviously doesn't trust his other striker. They've let Matic go. Was that his decision? The players they've brought in, I don't think they've enhanced the team. Say what a Matic and a Lukaku have done for Man United, and You can go on about Man City with the fullbacks, with Walker and Mendy have all done as well.
But how are they thin on the ground when they've let so many go and so many go on loan as well?
Again, as Craig pointed out, with the tracksuit, is that him saying, all these decisions have been taken out of my hand? Has he brought the players in? Was he the one who let Loftus-Cheek go? These are the things we don't know.
But he said about Matic, didn't he? It was out of his control. He wouldn't have let him go to Manchester United. So straight away, the alarm bells were ringing then. You'd be looking at it saying, well, who is making decisions? I don't know. I'm not inside Chelsea.
Do you think it sets... not sets the wrong tone, or is he just being completely honest and should be applauded for it? On the eve of this game, he was talking about the size of the squad and the lack of numbers. Should a manager like that just accept he's got what he's got? Because within 48 hours, he's not going to have any more players. So why highlight?
I think by highlighting that as well, it gives the players an excuse. We're all footballers, and if there's an excuse for us for not performing well, we're going to take it well. And there's the manager whinging about the squad and it's not big enough, we're not good enough to compete on all these things. And is there any coincidence that Chelsea draw at home today and slip up against Roma? Just
going back to what Craig was saying about a lot of hamstring injuries there as well. You know about hamstring injuries, unfortunately. Does it smack to you, the amount they've had? Oh, I mean, I couldn't tell the exact number, but the number that they've had, if there are an increased number of hamstring injuries, is that often a training thing, or is it just unlucky with the players you have?
Hamstrings usually happens with players who are high intensity, very quick, very high intensity kind of running. And Craig touched on it. They have double sessions. They could do double sessions. He could put his points across because they were only competing on one front. Yes, they had a run in the FA Cup, but every Saturday they were playing. Now with the Champions League, he has to take away the load. Because
there's no one like obviously not just playing with Kieran. I knew him, but I also knew his body, and I sort of learned a lot more my own body as well, and worked with people who really spoke to me on a level of prevention of injuries and what type of training you need to do. So I learned a lot about, like hamstring injuries. There's no player as such thing as injury prone. They're just not trained properly. They're not worked properly. So if you want to go and get, like, for instance, at the moment, you've got certain managers, like he's from the Italian school of standing around quite a lot in formation. Listen, very good. But for speed players, it's the last thing you want to be doing. Because then, if you want to go back out there then and train in the afternoon, their muscle fibres are completely different to players who play in different positions who haven't quite got that speed. So you look at Robin all through the years as well. Now he gets less injuries now with his hamstrings.
Great story with Gary Neville on that when he's talking about a young Ronaldo and they had to do sprints after training. I think they had to do 10 or 12 sprints and that. And Ronaldo stops after 8 and Gary Neville's like, who the hell do you think you are? And he gives it the relax. Too much water kills the plant. Because he knew his body, he knew he'd done enough and what he needed to prepare for the next game.
How varied is the training now for different players? Within an average, if you like, Premier League team, would you expect strikers, defenders, midfield players all to be doing the same exercises?
Well, the game's gone so advanced now that you have the sports scientists and you have your vests on, have all your data, and they call it the red zone, and they can tell if you're loading too much, and they do withdraw you back, especially us. We're coaching even at Ipswich now with the 18s, Cardiff at the 18s, all the kids' data is taken on, and if we think we just take back their load. Maybe again with the Chelsea manager doing the way he wants, he's saying no, double sessions, the load's this way.
I see problems. I know why Gareth Bale's getting his problems. I know it. He's a speed player. So specifically with those type of players, they have to do their own individual. They train with a group, but certain sessions they don't need to do because what they're doing 20 to 30 minutes in a session, they run 3-4 times high intensity more than another player. So does he need that continuously? He's going to break down. He will end up breaking down. So they'll shorten his training sessions. All right, you come off. The rest of the players go on because they don't get to the level you do, speed-wise and high intensity. Why would you then... In a game, these players, like your Gareth Bales and other players, they run 3-4 times the amount of other players on the team. So, what I'm trying to say, Jeff, why should they do the same work in training on a regular basis, other players who don't run anywhere near the amount that they do. You have to take it.
I get that completely. I just find it difficult to believe that this doesn't happen.
No, but because the mentality of... There's a lot of coaches who do and a lot of managers who do, but it's especially more Italian and people, not just Italian coaches, but a lot of coaches who have played in Italy have got to the mentality of, no, we all do it. So if Gareth Bale's doing... So if Real Madrid are doing a 45-minute run, and it's a low-intensity run, it's nothing hard, but he's plodding around. Listen, it's the worst thing for him. For any speed player. Like, Ronaldo doesn't do them. Guarantee that. With his knee, he will not be doing 40-odd-minute runs. Won't happen. But because Zinedine Zidane wants Gareth with the group, he doesn't want any individuals getting pulled out, Gareth then goes and has to do it. So at the same time then, he ends up picking up injuries. He ends up with a calf injury.
Yeah, but
So that, no,
he's
that's
gone to the
detrained.
manager.
And a lot of managers used to throw the one, you have to train how you play.
Yeah.
And for me, being a high-intensity player, reaching maximum speed, and then I could run all day, and then if I'm training like that, the load that was going through my body...
You're going to break.
Is it any coincidence that...
Something will give.
Because it just king of the hamstring injuries.
Accumulates in time, just adds. Lactic acid comes in, and you will pull an injury. Your body will break. It will let you know.
OK, before we leave Chelsea, potentially a tricky game against Watford at the weekend, or will they be thinking it's not a top, one of the traditional challenges, if you like, at the weekend? Tricky tie?
I expect them to win. One of the pleasing things about the game is Hazard got another 80 minutes. He's coming back to form. He's their key player. There's something definitely going wrong if they don't get a result against Watford. OK, speaking of the Champions League, let's have a little look at Manchester United. Great win for them away from home tonight. Possibly a little fortuitous, the nature of the goal, but...
Yeah, the nature of the goal, yeah. But good win.
Won their games, can't ask for any more than that,
Yeah,
can you?
good win, and they were, they showed more than what they did at Anfield. They were on the front foot a lot more. What we'd expect.
Look, another clean sheet.
They would. I never, watching the game, I never seen them in any danger against this Benfica team. And the goal was lucky, but at the same time, I thought it was just about what Manchester United deserved on the night. The
problem Man United have got is that they're winning games, but they're not winning spectacular. And the people across the right, exactly. Man City are winning in such...
Hang on, you say that. Is that not a massive overreaction to the weekend? Because they've won 3 or 4 games 4-0. And had they won at the weekend, it would have been their best start for 32 years. But
Everton, they beat Everton by 4, and Everton were probably for half the game with a better team. Man United have scored a lot of late goals. And like I said, I'm comparing them to Man City, who are just ripping everyone up at the moment. I expected the way they went to Anfield. I expected that from Mourinho. I think he's getting too much stick. I think Lukaku as well. He was under so much fire and pressure, and he didn't touch the ball. He had no support, and everyone's saying he doesn't do it against the top 6 team. It's not the pressure that he's under that should be taken into account, because he's Manchester United's centre forward, and I'm sure he's rewarded accordingly. But if you're starved of the ball, he touched the ball once in the first 23 minutes. So he's through on goal, and he's hardly touched the ball. He's hardly going to be flying, is he? Exactly. That's what I mean. And you pick up all the papers and the press, and everyone's saying he doesn't do it against the top 6 teams. And I'm thinking, you could have Messi playing in that Man United team on just gone last week, and he wouldn't touch the ball. So how are you going to influence the game? They were deep. We knew it, and Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher made some very good points after the game. But he was left isolated. I was surprised how deep they were. I knew they were going to be defensive. A Mourinho team usually is. Look, Anfield's always a tough place to go, so they might look at it as a point gained. But at the same time, we've grown up in an era where Manchester United, maybe we've been spoilt by Sir Alex Ferguson's football and the players he's had, that they've always give you value for money. They play a certain way. Their identity means more to them than what really... Look, they're always going to get results. Yeah, but if Manchester United win the title this season, nobody's going to say, yeah, it was a great title to win. Manchester United are more than titles. As a football club, they have an identity that's worth more than a title. I don't think Mourinho sees it that way. Yeah, but as a club, they have a certain way of playing, and I believe they've let that go. They've let that go for the time being. Winning now the league, going from winning
on a regular basis to actually now coming off it has got him in that much of a panic as a football club that Mourinho coming in isn't what... Look, Sir Bobby Charlton said it through the years, he isn't a Manchester United type of manager. And now, at the moment, because their desperation to win trophies, to get back to the top, they will bring him in. And they will swallow that, they will let it go right for now, but this will only be a period Manchester United supporters, Manchester United as a football club, will allow this to happen for.
Well, Man United fans were buzzing that they won Europe last year, and in the final, he let Ajax have most of the ball and just sat back, and that's not the Man United way we expect.
Imagine Sir Bobby Charlton and Alex Ferguson sat in the stands watching that. And you could say, great, you're winning, not a problem, but Manchester United are more than that. They've always been more than that. They're a huge club with a huge tradition, and you don't want to go too far away from that.
I think the beauty of Man United this season, I touched on the Everton game and they didn't play well and they won. And then the only game Man City haven't played well this season was probably Everton at home, and they didn't win the game. So can Man City win playing ugly? I think it has to be right all the time for Man City to win games.
Yeah, but they've done it at Chelsea. Look, I know they still play well, but they went to a tough place, got a 1-0 win, kept a clean sheet, where a lot of people were saying, well, there's your biggest test, you ain't going to keep clean sheets. Just Man City's a different project to where Manchester United are. They always, Man City are new. Listen, they had a brilliant period through the 60s, skillful players, brilliant players, some would be your Bells, but now their identity's new. They're creating one for themselves now. That's why they brought Guardiola in. They see a future, and this is how they want to play football.
You said they went to Chelsea, but they didn't play ugly. They played to their maximum.
Yeah,
that's why they got the result. I'm saying when they're not at their maximum, can they get the result? I think that's the challenge for them. I think Man United can play it nowhere near their best, and they'll get some results.
OK, that's the Champions League for the time being. Next, we're going to be taking a look at the extraordinary day's events as the FA are accused of bullying, blackmail and shambolic governance. Welcome back to the debate. As you can see, we've been joined on set by Sky Sports News chief reporter Brian Swanson, who's been at the FA parliamentary inquiry into the handling of the Mark Sampson case today. But before we hear from Brian, let's hear from 4 of the protagonists from earlier today.
It's very difficult for players who are there fundamentally to play for their country and perform to raise issues that they shouldn't really be raising. There is no structure, there's no parameters. And as perhaps that suggests why it seems, as you said, very ad hoc, because there is no process, there is no, this is what happens, consistently in terms of grievances being brought. And that's very much how it felt. Even after the culture review, I felt that I was ignored. I do feel that the FA's sole agenda has been to protect its own reputation, whilst making insinuations that I'm lying.
You have to look at the end of what is established. What is established, putting aside all the fluff about, institutional racism, no institutional bullying, is... Well, I'm not trying to hide behind it, right? Because
fluff well, word I'd use to describe it.
Well, the reason I say that is because Catherine Newton said there is no evidence of it. I could hide behind that. That's why I used that phrase.
But the fact that you describe that as fluff, I think, speaks volumes about your organisation.
No. Please don't take it out of context.
In terms of a general apology, in terms of how we handle it, I think we believe that we've handled this with decency and openness. I regret that the 2 comments, the inappropriate banter, have been made. So it's not right for an FA employee. But I do think the spirit with which we approach the whole concerns have been good.
I have to be honest with you, I've never heard such shambolic evidence about the governance of an organisation as I've heard today, and I used to sit on a board of directors.
Brian, I can only describe that as absolutely brutal. A complete filleting of the FA.
It was tense, it was tetchy. For 2.5 hours, the FA's top brass sat in front of Parliament and they just faced question after question. If it wasn't such a serious issue, it would be laughable because it had sketches of a comedy at one point. People saying, oh, that's not my issue, that's an issue for HR. And then the HR saying, well, hang on, Rachel saying, oh, that's an issue for Dan. It was going back and forwards. And what was interesting is that there were some MPs on that parliamentary committee today. They weren't football fans. They just took a big interest in governance, and they said they couldn't believe how the FA was run. They were staggered that there wasn't proper procedures in place around the time of all the allegations against Mark Sampson. And that ultimately led to why they're all there today, because what this committee's doing is it's looking at how the FA is run, because it receives more than £30 million worth of public money every year.
Yeah. What do you think the damage is that has been done by today? Well,
interestingly, Greg Clark said that a lot of people treat the FA like a football club. And he said that they always look up and they say that if you've got a problem, you go to the chairman. Go to the chairman, go to the chairman. He said it doesn't work like that at the FA. He said that he's got to put his fingers in his ears sometimes because he has to take a step back from the disciplinary side and from other governance issues. But, of course, the question then lies, well, who does it sit with? Who does it fall with? What was really telling today is that he had a right go at the PFA. He had real issues with the PFA. He said that he doesn't believe the PFA is spending enough money to help those players and former players who suffered traumatic abuse when they are continuing to pay their chief executive millions of pounds. Now, that may be a valid point, but
the PFA are not on trial here.
Completely irrelevant today.
To save face.
Absolutely, and that was the feeling in the committee today. Was actually that was a diversion, that was a distraction. So he's clearly got issues with the way that some parts of the game are, but ultimately the MPs are trying to establish, how did this all happen? How did you have a senior England player, capped more than 100 times, who said that she only wants to represent her country? She raised issues in a cultural review, it was anonymous, and then she finds that she's not selected, she's not picked. Dan Ashworth asked about it today. He said there was absolutely no coincidence, it was a complete coincidence, there was absolutely no connection there at all, and the MPs clearly didn't buy it and said, no, there must have been a connection there.
How much do you think today's findings or inquiry showed, or how telling is it, that whether or not football, and I'll open this to you two in particular as well, as to whether football is a place where somebody, if they have a grievance, they feel that there is the culture and the structure that they can raise it in the appropriate way? Or do you think this has set the culture of football back, what we've seen today?
The football culture, the banter, the locker room banter is probably the most extreme you can get compared to society. If people heard half of what there's...
I disagree with that. Even stepping outside of football now and spending time with my friends...
I think some of the banter in the change rooms is real bad.
But does it cross a line?
It does. It didn't to me because I classed it as a banter, so if there's a joke about a black man, I'd laugh along with it because it's just banter. But another black person might take that as offensive, and that is where there is the big problem. Some people, like myself, it doesn't, but obviously we're...
Just to pick up, actually, just an interesting point today about Lee Kendall, the England women's goalkeeping coach. Eni Aluko said that she accused him of regularly speaking to her in a fake Caribbean accent. And she said, look, I'm not from the Caribbean, of African descent. And she told MPs that, you know, he's from Wales. She said, if I keep doing a Scotland impression, a Scottish impression of him, at some point he's going to twig and go, why do you keep doing an impression I'm from Wales? She said, look, I'm not saying that was racist. She said, but it was an example of ignorance. And I think what she was trying to get across was it's all about those boundaries. It's kind of what is acceptable. And current players right now will say to me, what's the problem with stuff like that? It's fine. It just goes on in the dressing room. You in the media, you focus too much on it. But, of course, then, if there is an issue, who feels comfortable raising it? And where do they raise it? Yeah,
well, the problem is maybe on a professional level, there needs to be places, put in place, should we say, where a player can go and speak to someone. And if there was an incident to be reported, maybe be able to report. And I'm not too sure, as a professional level, even looking back at my, myself at playing, that there was those avenues to, for people to go and approach or speak to. Usually, would be the manager.
Yeah, there wasn't. Not compared to today's football.
But now, actually working with younger players, we have to have that in place. It has to. We have to have the welfare of the safeguard, and we have to have that in place. So it would, certainly go towards him, and then the head of academy. Then obviously they speak to everyone concerned. Then, if they're not happy, then obviously they go to the parents and see what action they want taken and go from there. But we have to do that because obviously we're working with young children, so it is paramount.
They have psychologists, they have the whole shebang.
But you're in charge of the under-18s at Cardiff. You're in charge, or you work with the under-16s at Ipswich. Within the environment you work now, can you imagine any of that type of behaviour and that type of comments happening in your workplace now?
No chance. The hairdryer, everyone talks about the hairdryer. I suffered many hairdryers when I was a youth team player. I cannot give my kids the hairdryer treatment because that will be classed as bullying. Parents would be straight on. There'd be emails going into the club, complaints. We'd have to have a meeting. We'd have to have all the officers in. It would be such a big thing. So the game is improving in that way.
OK, I want to come to that in a second, but you certainly... Would you be staggered if you heard any of the type of racist remarks that were quoted in the parliamentary inquiry? You know, a fake Caribbean accent. Would that happen at your level now?
No chance. Not with the kids. It wouldn't happen. But from where we started as kids and how the game's progressing, I think it's slowly phasing out of the game. It's always going to be there. Yes, it's nowhere near as extreme to when I was an 18-year-old boy to when I was a 35-year-old seasoned pro. It's getting less and less. The banter still exists, but it is phasing out because now there's all these avenues where people can complain. And
the big point today was one about the manager and the coach. So what came through quite a lot today was about Mark Sampson, was that complaints were made about him, issues were raised. But the feeling was that you don't rock the boat. The manager's the manager, the head coach is the head coach. You know, it should be dealt in-house.
Plus, they were doing well.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can disguise what's going on. If the team's doing well, then it's... But don't... Like you just said, don't rock the boat. Let's not interrupt this. This is going well at the present moment. So let's not have any outside influence or anything going on inside that can upset this.
That's what they've tried to do. Yeah. They've tried to kind of sweep it under the rug, and she's too smart for them.
Situations like this are more important than football. More important than results. So they have to be acted on. And it's clear, we all know, from start to finish, the FA have made an absolute mess of this. From start to finish, and then they've tried backtracking.
How big the damage will be. I'm thinking of at your level, for instance. So say somebody, a parent or child, has a grievance under your care. This will have rocked those parents' faith in any sort of justice in the system if they have a legitimate complaint.
Yeah, I totally agree, but that is... We would deal with that as a football club before it even reached the FA, if you know what I mean, and we've got the structure in place at our football club for the kids and for the parents that if something happened, there would be serious consequences. We wouldn't try to sweep it under the table. We would.
No, you have to.
We would act on it straight away.
You have to be.
People would be getting suspended from the club, or expelled from the club, basically.
And then it goes towards the directors, and then if the club will handle this. And I guarantee, like our club, I'm not too sure about Ipswich, but I'm sure they're exactly the same. We'll handle this. Don't worry about that. This will be taken care of. And then it would go, if it wasn't, and it was an even bigger problem, the FA would be approached.
So the fact that you are so confident you could deal with it at club level, yet the governing body is described as shambolic. What does that say? This is...
I'm not surprised. Even going back to, we're talking racism case, the John Terry and Anton Ferdinand, the way that all escalated was an absolute shambles, and I think his punishment at the end was like just a 4-game ban for...
Even their interview process through that inquiry was worrying. You know, they've gone in there knowing the type... Well, maybe not knowing all the questions are going to get thrown at them, but surely they would have gone through a number of statements or be prepared for some of the questions they had. The head of the FA, then the chairman, his interview then was worrying. I'd be really concerned if he was head of my football association, calling it fluff. That was concerning straight away. We looked at each other as soon as he said it. Did he just say that?
The thing is, that is the real Greg Clark, is that he does sometimes speak first and think later. You know, he's not racist, he's not someone... But the fact that that was the first word that he thought of to describe those claims, fluff, noise, and the MPs took a step back and said, hang on, you've just said that. And he apologised very quickly because he realised quite quickly what he'd said. But that's what he's like.
I was slightly confused. What was his reference point when he said, I'm from a council house, but I love football?
As we saw today...
What was that about?
As we saw with Greg Clark, he does sometimes come out with statements that might not be strictly relevant to what he's being asked. So I think the point he was trying to make in his own way was that he... sometimes isn't as careful with words as others. I think that was what he was getting at.
The most worrying thing is when she referenced Wayne Rooney and was saying, how would they act with the... I think they'd muck that up as well. I really do.
The most damning thing tonight
it was
is
Wayne Rooney.
Kick It Out have come out and said that they believe that the FA condoned and covered up the behaviour of Mark Sampson. And that's the biggest issue, is that if there's accusations of a cover-up, that here they are, they tried to protect
we can't say, I don't know, we can't say that, but it doesn't
We discussed it the night the story broke, we discussed it, and there was heavy inference in the air that this was a cover-up.
Yeah.
And who they appointed, the nature of the inquiry, the fact that Dan Ashworth...
Yes, and that was raised today, that he was someone who was taking in evidence but was also a witness and was also overseeing that inquiry. So,
how can you oversee the inquiry and be a witness?
Yeah, and he did say with hindsight that clearly didn't look great.
In law, that is just impossible.
Yeah, and the MPs were shaking their heads today looking at it going, did this actually happen? And that was a point that was raised by the independent inquiry. But remember, the first inquiry with the players, there were only a couple of players that were interviewed and players who hadn't heard comments. And the MP said to them, well, why weren't they introduced? And it was only latterly, in the second inquiry, did they get those players, and guess what? They came out...
What happens from here, Brian? So, you deal with this type of situation, this story.
Yeah, what do you see happening from here?
The issue here is, ultimately, is Greg Clark, is Martin Glenn the right people in charge? Are they the right people in charge of the FA? And actually, for them to go, it is quite a bit of process. There needs to be a vote of no confidence from the FA board and the FA Council. There's nothing yet from sources that I'm speaking to the FA to say that they think that at the moment. Because most of this was historic, they've always got that as a starting point, saying, oh, well, we've now changed. Look at what we're now introducing. That won't happen again. That can't happen again. Yeah. But it's an issue of confidence. I'd be surprised if heads did roll on this, because it felt like there was no killer blow today. It felt like the MPs were trying and trying and trying, and it was embarrassing. Blackmail allegations, extraordinary, but even then there was a response. The FA seemed to go through Eni Aluko's Twitter feeds extraordinarily forensically, and that's why they have held back some of her money. They say because she broke...
The worrying thing with that is that she's so clued on that, no disrespect to Craig, if Craig was in that situation, they said, if you want your payment, sign this to give them... So we're not to blame. Yeah. Any player would sign that to get their money without thinking the whole picture, and then it would have been swept under the rug.
And that was Eni Aluko's
Give my money first, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Eni Aluko's point today was that she claimed that the FA sat down and said, if you say we are not institutionally racist, you will get the remainder of your payoff.
Which we...
And Eni Aluko said, and the FA, said that that's not the case. So there is a disagreement there, but... As always with these things, look at the language really closely, and what the FA are not denying is that they did say to her it would be great if there was a statement in your own words. But as the MP said, why does that matter? She gets the money, you've agreed to the money, why are you holding it back? And so it's uncomfortable, really uncomfortable.
Doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good.
I mean, the whole thing was excruciating.
But we knew that was going to be the case. You could see it, couldn't you? Even when we I think it was on a Wednesday, wasn't it? We were here. We knew this was probably the worst scenario. And actually, like I said then, going by the interviews of especially the FA chairman, I could see why they didn't want to go.
And that's the beauty of Parliament. You have to go.
And
you have to be called. You have to go. If not, you can face a contempt.
And I don't see anything. I certainly don't see them losing their jobs. But on the outside looking in, like I said, I'll go back to the FA chairman again. His interview would leave me. I'd be worried. I'd be worried.
Last word on this, Brian. What did you make of the way Eni Aluko conducted herself throughout this, not just today, but throughout this whole affair?
The general consensus was that she was extremely eloquent. She made her points extremely clearly, concisely. I watched the body language with the MPs, and where with the FA some of them were sitting looking utterly bemused. There was a huge degree of sympathy for Eni Aluko today, and Leanne Sanderson. And you look at Drew Spence as well, because particularly in Eni and Drew's case, they feel that they did raise concerns, they felt that they weren't listened to, and finally today they got the apology, they got the acknowledgement that yes, they had been subjected to language that was discriminatory. Yes, the panel were quick to point out that they didn't believe Mark Sampson was racist, but he did use language that was. And I think from her point of view, she felt a sense of relief. And she, incidentally, came out today and tonight and said, I'm not calling for anyone's heads to roll, I just want something to happen.
Yeah.
No, very classy the way she conducted herself. Yeah. Brian, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're going to take a break now. After the break, we'll be taking your questions and we'll be talking Newcastle United.
I am nowhere near wealthy enough. in football now to compete with the likes of Man City, etc., not just Man City, where basically it's a wealthy individual taking on what is equivalent of countries. I cannot and I will not, yeah? And that's why if somebody currently would like to come along and take this seat and sit here and fund Newcastle with a naught on the end with their wealth more than me, I will not stand in Newcastle United's way.
Sir John Hall said as well, somebody should buy this club. This is a great opportunity to make it a top 6 side. Do you see that?
I would, if I was a foreign owner looking to invest in the Premier League, that'd be one of the first clubs I'd go for.
The potential for that club is through the roof. The fan base, 52,000 people that were getting in the Championship. My worry is to be a top 6 club, though. You're going to have to look to spend another 300, 400 million to get the players to be a top 6 club.
On top of what you're going to pay for
the club.
Pay for the club. It's a lot of money now because you like he just said. Then you're up against countries now. The wealth for your Man Cities and other clubs as well is just huge. It's huge. Being a single, Abramovich was able to do it, but now I think even he's realising as well. You're up against certain people now that are just, wealth is just incredible. The financial fair play was supposed to try and help. These people have found different ways around it now, but it's made very, very difficult. But at the same time, I look at it as a club. Look, has Mike Ashley done a good job at Newcastle? Look, they've been relegated twice, so it hasn't been that successful. Of course, I think because a club like Newcastle United should never be, shouldn't be getting relegated from the Premier League. At the same time, financial stability of the football club, they could probably look at it and say it's done well. I'm sure he's done well, but the club is stable.
I feel he's been treated a bit harshly at times.
I like
the fans wanted Kevin Keegan as manager. He gives them their wish. That doesn't go well. The fans wanted Alan Shearer to come in as caretaker manager. That didn't work out well. He's had a bit of a rick when he changed the name of the stadium and stuff like that. But obviously this season hasn't been the case.
To change the name of the stadium in the manner that he did, and he admitted himself in that very rare interview, he's got so many things wrong. I don't think so much the Newcastle United fans are apoplectic about so much the amount of money he's put in, it's just the way that he has run the club under his stewardship. But this isn't about Mike Ashley now.
Yeah.
Can you see a big investor, that there are allegedly people looking at it, allegedly people have signed NDAs and want to take the club on?
I find the problem now in football, you just look at Arsenal, when a new investor comes in, they'll see the club as a business. Not bothered about winning something, just to make money, keep churning money. Arsenal have shown that they're happy to come top 4 every year, job done. So, knowing the Newcastle fans, would they settle for
But for it to be a business, then you have to invest. You have to invest at a club like Newcastle.
I think Newcastle staying in the Premier League will make money with just the TV money.
Yeah, well, look, that's always... It's clear that's why a lot of people, a lot of clubs have been bought in the Premier League because, there is a lot of money in our league now due to TV rights. But if I was out there, look, the Chinese, like a lot of when money was coming from China, that sort of dried up a little bit now due to the government rules now. So you look at Middle East, Abu Dhabi. Obviously they're taking with Manchester City. So with Qatar, PSG. So a lot of those money from the Middle East have been taken up, really. They've gone into clubs already. So maybe America, maybe that's probably the route for a club like Newcastle. But if they're willing to invest, I'm telling you that now, if they go at it and they do it well, it's a really good club. And they could, look, it's very difficult to ever get like your Manchester United and Liverpool's because they've had 50, 60 years of success. There's a reason why they're supported all the way around the world because of European Cups and winning leagues. It'd take a long time for them ever to get to that stature.
But you've got to make a start somewhere. And I'll be honest, I've spoken to quite a few Newcastle fans. I was on the train with quite a lot after the Brighton game. And they said they're fed up, the Newcastle fans, or a large number of them, this reputation that they believe they have a right to win a trophy or they belong beside Liverpool, Manchester United. They said that's a myth. Yeah. They just want to support their team and they want their team to do well. They do not believe they have any divine right.
I disagree. I disagree. Being there, I think they expect to be up there. I'm not saying winning the league, but I think the fans think they're a Champions League team. I honestly believe that. They were spoilt with Kevin Keegan.
We say spoilt. They went in a direction and then did that.
Yeah, well, they were spoilt with Bobby Robson in a way. He exceeded expectations. But that was when, especially with the Kevin Keegan, Newcastle broke the world record transfer fee with the funds. They just cannot do that now unless, as he said, a massive investor comes in. But yeah, the club's got so much potential. I would love to see them do well and get back up in the Champions League and competing. OK, here's a good question for you then. Under Rafa Benitez, with a proposed takeover, is European football a realistic achievement for Newcastle?
Yeah, we're at it already. We're going again.
Well, why not? It's a decent question.
Straight away, it's a jump. Look, Newcastle...
with new owners and keep Rafa in place.
I said with Rafa, it was a blessing in disguise. Newcastle going down when Rafa came on for that short period, because I said he will be the first manager, I think, who will have the clout to say to Mike Ashley, I'm running the club top to bottom. I think every other manager who's worked under Mike Ashley, I don't think they bought the players and stuff like that. So this season's come as a bit of surprise to me that they haven't invested, because I thought if they were going to invest, Rafa Benitez was the manager who had the power and the control to get that from.
It may well be that he believes there's a takeover in the offing, and he knows he's got the feel for the club that you two were just embracing. OK, moving on. Do you think Tottenham can go far in the Champions League? Yesterday's brilliant performance at Real Madrid.
Yes. I've been a big fan of Tottenham now for especially the last 2-3 seasons. Pochettino's is the team are progressing, the team are getting better, but so's Pochettino. He's getting better as a manager. With the experience of Champions League last year, they've gone into it. They look better again in the Champions League. They're going to be strong. They're going to be there or thereabouts in the league again this year. I definitely feel that way. They come on strong second half of the season. If they can get through this group stage, and with them in the second half of the season, usually they come into form. I can see if they get to the knockout stages, they'll be a difficult team to beat over 2 legs.
Again, touching on that, a bit like the Chelsea, I think Tottenham's starting 11 is up there with any team in world football. It's just what happens if Harry Kane or a couple of key players, have they got the depth in the squad? OK, is Kevin De Bruyne the best midfielder in the world in his current form? Quite a claim.
You can answer, or do you want me to over the step in for you?
Yeah, you can answer.
Current form might be over the time you are.
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne is the best midfielder in the Premier League at the moment. The amount of assists, the quality of the assists. The quality of assists. What's so great about him is that you can put him in the centre of the park and he'll put a through ball. You put him out wide, and I haven't seen someone cross the ball as good as him since David Beckham. Yeah, he's playing. Look, we know he's been a very good player for the last couple of seasons, but especially with Guardiola now, he just he's gone on to another level. Like Guardiola's known for bringing players on and taking them to the next level. De Bruyne definitely has, and at this present moment, he's probably is one of the best midfielders. He must be one of the best players in the world at the moment when his agent's saying he wants a Neymar contract.
Yes, it's a good line to use, isn't it? Yeah. Right, is Guardiola proving he's the best manager in the world? Yes, at the moment, yes, I do. I think... You've got a question mark there, haven't you? I think Guardiola's big test is, at the moment, Man City have been the superior team to everyone they've played. I just want to see when they play a Real Madrid or a Barcelona at the Nou Camp, does he set up playing the way he's been playing, that open, expansive football? Because I think that could be tactically naive and that could be his undoing in the Champions League. OK, how crucial is Paul Pogba to Manchester United, and how much do United miss him?
I always get these Pogba questions every week. He's a brilliant player. He will definitely, the next couple of years, be one of the top midfielders in the world. I don't believe he's quite there yet. Is he important to Manchester United the way he started the season? Definitely. he will be important this season. So yeah, that answers your question. Paul Pogba, sorry, exactly. Next couple of years, he's going to go on and hopefully fulfill his potential. And I believe Manchester United will have one of the best midfielders in the world. At this present moment, he isn't.
Do you think Crystal Palace will stay up, and will it still be with Roy Hodgson?
Yes, I do. I think Roy Hodgson, the way his training sessions, the way he sets up his team, is like Sam Allardyce. I think Sam Allardyce proved that when you've got a manager who gets a team well organised, tough to beat, they tend to do quite well. I think you see with Burnley and Sean Dyche as well. So, yes, I do think Roy Hodgson will keep Crystal Palace up.
OK. Is Mourinho's link with PSG affecting the Manchester United team?
Well, they haven't lost this season. Well, they're winning mostly. Well, they've had 2 draws. What can you do to answer that? Where? How? You know, they've had 1 draw against Liverpool, which they didn't play well. All right, Mourinho got stick for, and I was definitely one of them as well. But at the same time, I was that affected? No, not at all. Not at all. OK, do you see Cardiff winning the Championship and being a stable Premier League team like West Brom over the coming seasons? Can we go up? Definitely, especially with a manager. Knows the league very, very well. Stability in the Premier League is very, very difficult. I've felt last time we were in it, it was probably one of the worst experiences a newly promoted team could have ever had in the Premier League. Usually you should be, you know, the crowd's buzzing every week, and even if it hasn't gone well, the crowd are just excited to see it. It backfired on us, and it just didn't work out for us. We actually got relegated with an experience of that wasn't enjoyable. That we didn't enjoy that. It wasn't, and not just all football reasons. So it wasn't a great experience for us. So hopefully there will be a next time, and hopefully under Neil Warnock, hopefully we're able to enjoy it, but at the same time leave ourselves in a position. So if it did happen and we did get relegated, because a lot of teams do, that we're in a stable position, that we're able to hopefully come straight back up the year. I spoke to him before the season started, and he was really confident that he had a chance of going up, and I nearly laughed down the end of the phone, but like you said, he knows the division better than anyone, and he's proven that. OK, it's the end of a Champions League week. All 5 English teams unbeaten. What does that tell us? There's always a spell in the Champions League where the Spanish clubs they have a period of dominance. German teams, Italian teams, and I think now with the way the Premier League's going, I think we'll start to see the dominance of the English re-emerging. I really do that. I don't think Barcelona are strong. Real Madrid have started the season indifferent. It was shown with the way Tottenham went there and performed. So yeah, I expect an English team to win the Champions League. I still see it going to Spain this year. Either Madrid or Barcelona. I think Madrid will come on strong second half of the season. They do exactly what they've done last year. They started last year very, very similar. And like I said, towards the second half of the season, they're kicking again. Madrid could afford to play their second team in the league last season, but they're already 5-6 points behind Barcelona. Can they afford to do that? Well, I sincerely hope that you're right. Let's have a look what's coming up on Sky Sports right now. On Friday night, West Ham, Brighton have both got a draw at the weekend. No Andy Carroll. There's Chelsea against Watford, who saw off Arsenal this weekend. Then Everton and Arsenal. Phew, could they both do with a good result right now? And then Tottenham and Liverpool, 2 teams who had a fantastic night in the Champions League. What will that mean when they meet at Wembley? Then tomorrow night, the debate is back. Make sure you join Simon Thomas with Mark Schwarzer and Simon Jordan. Thanks for your company. We'll see you next time.